Welcome to the Republican Professor. Man, I shouldn't use AI for these prompts anymore. You know how they're all stereotypical. Okay, it's a human now. Welcome to the Republican Professor. I'm your host, Dr. Lucas J. Mather. We have a very special Halloween week production for you of Leo the 13th. Leo the 13th, scaring the socialist children, scaring the hell out of their parents. And I mean, scaring the hell out of them with a Rerum Novarum production. Of course, you know that I'm talking about Pope Leo XIII writing in Rerum Novarum 1891 his anti-socialist creed, which has stood the test of time and we're quite proud of here on the Republican Professor. I'm not Catholic, but anything that's good, I'm going to share with you. Outside in the backyard, got the waterfall going, which is probably what you hear in the background. And I've got my very special Halloween fall themed Pendleton sweater. It's a really deep dark orange, very autumny, and I'm excited. I'm so excited about this. I cannot even stand it. So here we are. We have a chaplain moment here. It's my Sabbath, so we're going to do a little bit of a chaplain. Although, is it still the Sabbath after sundown? Depends on when you started it. It really should be a day, an entire day. And I did not start my Sabbath until after sundown last night, working at the church. We have a reading from Psalm 6, and then we have a reading from Streams in the Desert, January 15th. So let's get to Psalm 6, shall we? I think we shall. I love that sound in the background. Not my backyard, it's my mentor, Dr. Doug Guyvet's backyard. Been house sitting for him for 22 years, as I've said before. He's my epistemology professor, always also taught philosophy of religion, and just a great mentor all around. He's really dialed in, knows his stuff really well. Great writer, great thinker. Here we have Psalm 6. O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger, nor discipline me in your wrath. Be gracious to me, O Lord, for I am languishing. Heal me, O Lord, for my bones are troubled. My soul also is greatly troubled. But you, O Lord, how long? Turn, O Lord, deliver my life. Save me for the sake of your steadfast love. For in death there is no remembrance of you. In Sheol, who will give you praise? I am weary with my moaning. Every night I flood my bed with tears. I drench my couch with weeping. My eyes waste away because of grief. It grows weak because of all my foes. Depart from me, all you workers of evil, for the Lord has heard the sound of my weeping. The Lord has heard my plea. The Lord accepts my prayers. All my enemies shall be ashamed and greatly troubled. They shall turn back and be put to shame in a moment. Moment of reflection, Psalm 6, English Standard Version. Streams in the Desert is next. Cowman Publications, Los Feliz Station, Los Angeles, California, 1925. The original non-woke edition, January 15th. It's 27 October 2025 years after Jesus today, but we're just going straight through this. January 15th. And the Lord appeared unto Isaac the same night. Genesis 26:24. Appeared the same night. The night on which he went to Beersheba. Do you think this revelation was an accident? Do you think that the time of it was an accident? Do you think it could have happened on any other night as well as this? If so, you are grievously mistaken. Why did he come to Isaac in the night on which he reached Beersheba? Because that was the night on which he reached rest. In his old locality, he had been tormented. There had been a whole series of petty quarrels about the possession of paltry wells. There are no worries like little worries, particularly if there's a accumulation of them. Isaac felt this. Even after the strife was past, the place retained a disagreeable association. He determined to leave. He sought change of scene. He pitched his tent away from the place of former strife. That very night the revelation came. God spoke when there was no inward storm. He could not speak when the mind was fretted. His voice demands the silence of the soul. Only in the hush of the Spirit, could Isaac hear the garments of his God sweep by. His still night was his starry night. My soul, hast thou pondered these words? Be still and know. In the hour of perturbation, thou canst not hear the answer to thy prayers. How often has the answer seemed to come long after? The heart got no response in the moment of its crying and its thunder, its earthquake and its fire. But when the crying ceased, when the stillness fell, when thy hand desisted from knocking on the iron gate, when the interest of other lives broke the tragedy of thine own, then appeared the long-delayed reply, Thou must rest, O soul, if thou wouldst have thy heart's desire. Still the beating of thy pulse of personal care. Hide thy tempest of individual trouble behind the altar of a common tribulation, and that same night the Lord shall appear to thee. The rainbow shall span the place of the subsiding flood, and in thy stillness thou shalt hear the everlasting music. George Matheson. Tread in solitude thy pathway, quiet heart and undismayed. Thou shalt know things strange, mysterious, to which thee no voice has said. Page 18 at the top. While the crowd of petty hustlers grasps at vain and paltry things, thou wilt see a great world rising where soft mystic music rings. Leave the dusty road to others. Spotless keep thy soul and bright, as the radiance ocean's surface when the sun is taking flight. From the German V. Schoeffel, HF, whoever the hell that is. Page 18 at the top, Streams in the Desert. January 15th, a moment of reflection. It's a Monday night. Since I work at the church, Monday is my Sabbath. So we're doing a theology-themed episode today, and I'm only doing it because it helps me rest. I'm having a cigar. I'm having a Skinny Maduro Toasty Jones. A little bit of Rambler whiskey. It's a Kentucky bourbon. It's not my favorite, but it's okay. I'm grateful for the opportunity to sit out here with this waterfall and the pool light on, and I think God's thoughts after him. I see the rise of socialism in the United States. No surprise. It's been happening for a long time. I study it. I think you should too. You should study it because it's a never-ending temptation. Ever since our friend Karl, our good old friend Karl and Friedrich. It's not going away. I mean, you got folks that have escaped from the 1979 socialist revolution in Iran, and they struggle with an attraction to socialism. Their children, not the parents necessarily, but the children certainly do. I have a fly in my whiskey. Trying to get it out. I know that you vegetarians think that flies are God's creatures too, and they are, technically. I'm just trying not to consume it. I'm on a anti-fly diet. I'm trying not to consume flies. If this was a socialist country, I guess flies would be a delicacy. So we have Catholic Social Thought, the documentary Heritage. We're back in this. Edited by David O'Brien and Thomas A. Shannon. Shannon, I'm of Ireland and I'll stay in Ireland until I die. Far and away. This is published 1992. Orbis Books. Orbis is an academic type publisher for Catholic stuff. Throw some business their way. Again, grab the book, get it used. I got this at Lighthouse Books in Monterey, California. And we're going to continue our swirly twirly journey through this wonderful Rerum Novarum. I believe that we went through number 26, and I'm just going to go ahead and verify that right now. You know, one of the things I love about this is the fact that it's coming from the Pope, and it's official teaching of the Roman Catholic Church, and it's totally anti-socialist. And I'll never get sick of saying that. We're on number 27, and we're going to go until we... Well, it's our party. We'll cry if we want to. So when I start crying, that's when we'll stop. But I think I'm having a good time so far. Number 27. There is another and a deeper consideration which must not be lost sight of. Leo the 13th, Leo the 13th, says, scaring the socialist children on Halloween every October. Leo the 13th, rated G. There's another deeper consideration which must not be lost sight of. To this state, the interests of all are equal, whether high or low. The poor are members of the national community equally with the rich. They are real component parts, living parts, which make up through the family, the real, the living body. And it need hardly be said that they are by far the majority. It would be irrational to neglect one portion of the citizens and to favor another. Well, sounds like you just gave a prediction of that's what will happen then, because it's irrational. And therefore, the public administration must duly and solicitously provide for the welfare and the comfort of the working people, or else that law of justice will be violated, which ordains that each shall have his due. All right. To cite the wise words of Thomas Aquinas, I think that was an actor back then. Silent movies, because that's how long ago it was. As the part and the whole are in certain sense identical, the part may in some sense claim what belongs to the whole. Among the many and grave duties of rulers who would do their best for their people, the first and chief is to act with strict justice, and that justice which is called in the schools distributive, toward each and every class. But although all citizens, without exceptions, can and ought to contribute to the common good, in which individuals share so profitably to themselves, yet it is not to be supposed that all can contribute in the same way and to the same extent. No matter what changes may be in forms of government, there will always be differences and inequalities of conditions in the state. Society cannot exist or be conceived without them. Some there must be who dedicate themselves to the work of the commonwealth, who make the laws, who administer justice, whose advice and authority govern the nation in times of peace and defend it in war. Such men clearly occupy the foremost place in the state, and should be held in the foremost estimation, for their work touches most nearly and effectively the general interests of the community. Those who labor at a trade or calling do not promote the general welfare in such a fashion as this, but they do, in the most important way, benefit the nation, though less directly. We have insisted that since it is the end of society to make men better, the chief good that society can be possessed of is virtue. Uh-oh. He said the V word. Page 27 in the middle. Nevertheless, in all well-constituted states, it is by no means an unimportant matter to provide those bodily and external commodities, the use of which is necessary to virtuous action. And in the provision of material well-being, the labor of the poor, the exercise of their skill, and the employment of their strength in the culture of the land and the workshops of trade, is most efficacious and altogether indispensable. Indeed, their cooperation in this respect is so important that it may be truly said that it is only by the labor of the working man that states grow rich. Justice, therefore, demands that the interests of the poorer population be carefully watched over by the administration. So that they who contribute so largely to the advantage of the community may themselves share in the benefits they create. That being housed, clothed, and enabled to support life, they may find their existence less hard and more endurable. It follows that whatever shall appear to be conducive to the well-being of those who work should receive favorable consideration. Let it not be feared that solicitude of any kind will injure any interest. On the contrary, it will be to the advantage of all, for it cannot be good for the Commonwealth to secure from misery those on whom it so largely depends. Number 28. That was number 27. We went through number 26 last time. Here's 28. We have said that the state must not absorb the individual or the family. Let me say that again. We have said that the state must not absorb the individual or the family. Both should be allowed free and untrammeled action as far as is consistent with the common good and the interests of others. You can see where the action is here. The action is, what does it mean to have the common good and interest of others? Nevertheless, rulers should anxiously safeguard the community and all its parts, the community, because the conservation of the community is so emphatically the business of the supreme power, and that the safety of the Commonwealth is not only the first law, but is a government's whole reason of existence. And the parts, because both philosophy and the gospel agree in laying down that object of administration of the state should not be the advantage of the ruler, but the benefit over whom he rules. That means there's got to be a real benefit there. Not the advantage of the ruler. The gift of authority is from God. Uh-oh. 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 Wapner's on 10 minutes. The gift of authority is from God and is, as it were, a participation of the highest of all sovereignties. It should be exercised, page 28 at the top, as the power of God is exercised, with a fatherly solicitude which not only guides the whole, but reaches to details as well. There's paternalism right there. You got to check that paternalism in a healthy society, because otherwise, as he says, the individual and the family will be absorbed in the state. You don't want that. That's what happened in communism. That's what happens in socialism. Okay. Whatever the general interest of any particular class suffers or is threatened with evils which can in no other way be met, the public authority must step in to meet them. Which in no other way can be met than the public authority. The public authority is not there first in line. The public authority is there as a last resort. You're your own first responder. And the family and the community. Now, among the interests of the public, as of private individuals, are these: that peace and good order should be maintained, that family life should be carried on in accordance with God's laws and those of nature, that religion should be revered, reverenced, and obeyed, that a high standard of morality should prevail in public and private life, that the sanctity of justice should be respected, that no one should injure another with impunity, that the members of the Commonwealth should grow up to man's estate strong and robust and capable, if need be, of guarding and defending their country. Uh-oh. Wapner on 10 minutes. 5 o'clock. Wapner's on 5 o'clock. Yeah. Yeah. Talking about defending the country. Talking about defending borders. If by a strike or other combination of workmen, there should be imminent danger of disturbance to the public peace, or if circumstance were such that among the laboring population the ties of family life were relaxed, if religion were found to suffer through the workmen not having time and opportunity to practice it, if in workshops and factories there were danger to morals through the mixing of the sexes, or from any occasion of evil, like maybe calling a man a woman and vice versa, forcing other people to do that. I could think of all sorts of other things. Or if employers laid burdens upon the working men which were unjust, or degraded them with conditions that were repugnant to their dignity as human beings. Finally, if health were endangered by excessive labor or by work unsuited to sex or age, in these cases there can be no question that, within certain limits, it would be right to call in the help and the authority of the law. The limits must be determined by the nature of the occasion which calls for the law's interference, the principle being this: that the law must not undertake more nor go further than is required for the remedy of the evil or removal of the danger. Wow. Leo the 13th. Scaring socialist children every October and scaring the hell out of their parents. Scaring the hell out of them so that maybe they can reach heaven at some point. A limited nature of the government. That's what he's saying here. He basically gave a theory of the police power of the state. That's what he just did. Morals, health, safety. Yeah, that's the police power of the state. But it should go no further than the remedy. In other words, you can't create criminals out of innocent people like gun control does. You can't do that. You can't require them to wear masks, get vaccinations that are not tested adequately. You can't impose environmental conditions on them that are harmful to their business, that don't actually help the environment. You have to be concerned about their health, safety, welfare. And there is a place for the government, but it is a limited place. And government has a proper role in respecting religion and encouraging the worship of God. Encouraging people to have opportunity for that. Our laws that we've had on the books, like for example closing on Sunday, they're based in this idea. That's why a lot of Catholic people supported that. I'm reading a biography of a guy named Al Smith, written by his daughter. It's an excellent little look into the life of a Democrat. He was a very popular Democrat. He was Catholic. And when he was in the assembly, I believe he was Speaker of the Assembly in this particular year. I think it was 1913 in New York. I think he was the last person to give a speech in support of a Sabbath. A Sabbath for, I'm forgetting which particular industry it was. It was a particular industry where it came to the attention of the legislature that people were working 7 days a week. I cannot remember the I think it might have been coal. I think it was energy or something. It might have been coal. I can't remember. But the question before the legislature was whether that should be prevented by law so that people could have a day off of Sabbath rest. And Al Smith got up in the assembly, Democrat, not a socialist, but a family man. He couldn't be a communist because he believed in God. And he said, he just quoted the Ten Commandments. And he had the shortest speech. And it looked like the provision might fail. There was no debate after that, and the measure passed. It was explicitly what you might call Christian nationalism to give people a day of rest. Democratic Party, 1913. New York State. I really wish I remember the industry. I can't remember what the industry was. It was a specific industry. Well, that was just a couple of decades after this, and my guess is this was on his mind if he was going to Mass, which he most certainly was, coming from a Catholic background as he did. There's an Al Smith dinner that's in his honor every presidential cycle. Kamala Harris did not go to it. I think it's the first time, possibly in history, that a Democratic candidate who was invited did not go. And he was known for having a very gregarious sense of humor. And it's a delightful portrait by his daughter. And this is a Democrat. I mean, I'm not on his side as far as being a Democrat goes. But he did do some decent things. I'm trying to help you understand that history there. Things that Republicans would also be interested in helping with. And sometimes we get criticized for why would you be criticized for that? Rights must be religiously respected wherever they are found. Can I read that again? Rights must be religiously respected wherever they are found. Page 28. The right to self-defense is what every gun control law infringes upon. He's saying the rights should be respected. Look, I'm not a Catholic. I'm on staff at an Anglican church, Protestant. I was born a pagan, but became a Christian when I was very young. But our Catholic buddies have been around for a long time. I think it's conducive to our political health and the body politic to be familiar with the history here. Here you have the Pope, Leo XIII, going after the socialist children and scaring the hell out of them every October for Halloween. Leo XIII. He was originally called Friday the 13th, but they changed it. It's a little bit less scary. And this is I think healthy for us to remember this stuff, because socialism wasn't what we know it now as this horrific monster that it became in the 1900s. I mean, it tore through Russia, Eastern Europe, Germany in in the Weimar Republic, in World War II, even after World War II, it almost divided the country in half, Eastern and Western Germany. Socialism of a communist variety, of a National Socialism variety, the Nazis, horrible stuff. Tore through Asia, tore through Africa, tore through Latin America, and guess what? It's been knocking on our door for a long time through the universities. Through the universities. There are more Marxists in universities than there are in Russia now, former Soviet Union. It is the duty of the public authority to prevent and punish injury, and to protect each one in the possession of his own. Still, when there is question of protecting the rights of individuals, the poor and helpless have a claim to special consideration. The richer population have many ways of protecting themselves and stand less in need of help from the state. Those who are badly off have no resources of their own to fall back upon and must chiefly rely upon the assistance of the state. And it is for this reason that wage earners, who are undoubtedly among the weak and necessitous, should be specially cared for and protected by the Commonwealth. There's a lot of this in the Psalms. If you read the Psalms, there's a lot of, and we will read them as we're going through the future episodes. I just read Psalm 6 today. There's a lot of Psalms that talk about God being a God to the fatherless, the widow, and having compassion on the weak and the marginalized and the oppressed. And this is God talking, and it's expressed from the king, right? David. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. You go to a no king's protest or whatever, and the most powerful expressions of protection of the marginalized comes from kingly literature. So it makes you wonder, what is the basis of your care of the poor and the marginalized and the weak and the fatherless and the widow? Now, in any particular case, it should be mentioned that the Old Testament teaches that you take an oath of impartiality. You don't have partiality to the poor or the weak in a particular case, as far as facts go. You don't make up facts in order, make up false facts in order to, in your mind, help a party that happens to be poor. That would be unjust. But he's not talking about cases and controversies that come before court. He's talking about the general condition of their lives and their life, that the laws should be such that they take consideration of someone who has no resources. And protecting them from being taken advantage of by powerful actors that would criminally hurt them by fraud or some other kind of injury. Number 30. Here, however, it will be advisable to advert expressly to one or two of the more important details. It must be borne in mind that the chief thing to be secured is the safeguarding by legal enactment and policy of private property. Holy cow, did he just say that? Oh my gosh, did he just say that? Did he just say that? It must be borne in mind that the chief thing to be secured is the safeguarding by legal enactment and policy of private property. See, I think that's what he means when he says, the beginning of number 28, he says, we have said that the state must not absorb the family or the individual. Okay, well, how do you do that? Well, you protect private property. Most of all, it is essential in these times of covetous greed, which is what socialism is based on. That's the vice. to keep the multitude within the line of duty. Okay, so this is not the multitude gets to do whatever it wants in a democracy. No. This is where what the Pope is saying here, Leo the 13th, coming after the socialist children, socialism, every October, Leo the 13th comes after socialism. This is where it fits with our reading of Richard A. Epstein's Takings, Private Property and the Power of Eminent Domain. Most of all, it is essential in these times of covetous greed to keep the multitude within the line of duty. Don't steal. For if all may justly strive to better their condition, yet neither justice nor the common good allows anyone to seize that which belongs to another. What about rent control? One of the candidates for mayor right now in New York City lives in a rent-controlled building in Queens. What about rent control? Does the landlord has the landlord experienced a taking of private property according to Richard A. Epstein and Takings, Private Property and the Power of Eminent Domain? Yes. There was a taking there. Why do you have a right to live in Queens if you can't afford it? By market forces. Now, if the government is getting in there and driving rents up, that's bad, and the government should repent and stop doing that. That's a taking. But if a landlord charges a certain amount, and it's not because of the government driving up the price, the landlord will lose out if it's too expensive for good tenants. And the landlord will have a reason to lower the rent in order to get good tenants to the price point which the market dictates, where it's just lower, just maybe $1 lower or whatever, low enough where you get the best tenants. And then they stay as long as you want them to. I mean, why would you want turnover for tenants? You don't want that. You want to get good tenants in and have a good relationship. It's less labor for you. It's less hassle. Less likely to have damage to the property. So on and so forth. You don't want the government coming in and saying what you can charge. How do you know? How does the government know that you can cover your costs? It's very interesting what he's saying. Man. Most of all, it is essential in these times of covetous greed to keep the multitude within the line of duty, for if all may justly strive to better their condition, yet neither justice nor the common good allows anyone to seize that which belongs to another. If you own a building and you're trying to improve your condition by charging rent at a fair price for good tenants, and so there's mutual benefit there, then everyone is justly striving to better their condition, right? Or under the pretext of futile and ridiculous equality, to lay hands on other people's fortunes. I don't know. It sounds like New York City mayor race has a problem right now. I just saw that Bernie and AOC like this guy, the socialist. Cuomo has flirted with socialism too. The whole rent control thing is socialism. It is most true that by far the larger part of the people who work prefer to improve themselves by honest labor rather than by doing wrong to others. Yeah. Can I get an amen? Anybody else relate to that? I do. Look at this beautiful backyard. Look at that beautiful pool with the light, waterfall. Can you hear the waterfall? That's the sound in the background is a waterfall. It's not static, it's a waterfall. And I'm having a great time with you. We're going to wrap up here in a bit. I know there's so many Democrats that listen to this. There's only so much anti-socialism I can do in an evening here. Okay. It is most true by far the great... it is most true, page 29 at the top, that by far the larger part of the people who work prefer to improve themselves by honest labor rather than by doing wrong to others. But there are not a few who are imbued with bad principles and are anxious for revolutionary change, and whose great purpose it is to stir up tumult and bring about a policy of violence. He's talking about Marxists and socialists who would come later. He's warning people about them. The authority of the state should intervene to put restraint upon these disturbers, to save the workmen from their seditious arts, and to protect lawful owners from spoliation. That's right. You're a business owner in Portland, and you're constantly harassed by these revolutionary gang members. Bring in the National Guard. That's what he's saying. Get rid of the violent actors. Get rid of these people. These criminals. They're criminals. Yeah. How refreshing. It must be borne in mind that the chief thing to be secured is the safeguarding by legal enactment and policy of private property. That includes businesses in Portland, in Chicago, in Washington, D.C., in New York City, landlords in Queens. Most of all, it is essential in these times of covetous greed, which is what socialists are, which is what these folks are, National Socialists, whatever you want to call them, to keep the multitude within the line of duty. For if all may justly strive to better their condition, yet neither justice nor the common good allows anyone to seize that which belongs to another. Or, he's talking about qualified immunity here too. Or, under the pretext of futile and ridiculous equality, to lay hands on other people's fortunes. It is most true that by far the larger part of the people who work prefer to improve themselves by honest labor rather than by doing wrong to others. Now, what does wrong mean? If you're an atheist, a socialist, you're not going by the Ten Commandments. Do not steal, do not covet, do not murder, You're not going by that. So you believe in abortion, which is murder. In many cases, it's murder or manslaughter. It's the taking of private property by the power of eminent domain or by qualified immunity, civil asset forfeiture, whatever you want to call it. Those are all wrong. According to Leo the 13th, coming after the socialist children, scaring the hell out of the parents who send their kids to Democrat indoctrination, grade inflation plantations called campuses. Number 31. There are not a few who are imbued with bad principles, that's socialism, and are anxious for revolutionary change, that's Marxism, Leninism, and whose great purpose it is to stir up tumult, to bring about a policy of violence. The authority of the state should intervene. That's what Donald Trump is doing. The Constitution requires the government to intervene to ensure a Republican form of government. Did you know that? Look up the word Republican. It's in the Constitution. The word democracy is not. The word Democrat is not. Republican is. That's why they hate the Constitution. They hate it. The authority of the state should intervene to put restraint upon these disturbers, to save the workmen from their seditious arts, and to protect lawful owners from spoliation. This is the head of the Roman Catholic Church saying this in 1891, FYI. Number 31. When work people have work people. Is that the original language? I don't know. Work people. Work people. I'm going to look this up on the Vatican might have a woke version too now. I was going to look it up. Well, anyway, when work people have recourse to strike, it is frequently because the hours of labor are too long, or the work too hard, or because they consider their wages insufficient. The grave inconvenience of this is not uncommon occurrence. The grave inconvenience of this not uncommon occurrence should not be obviated by public remedial measures, for such paralysis of labor not only affects the masters and their work people, but is extremely injurious to trade and to the general interests of the public. Moreover, on such occasions, violence and disorder are generally not far off, and thus it frequently happens that the public peace is threatened. The laws should be made beforehand and prevent these troubles from arising. They should lend their influence and authority to the removal in good times of the causes which lead to conflicts between masters and those whom they employ. That's interesting. I mean, you can see why there would be some question between Republicans and Democrats on this. Take, for example, Tom Woods, who is a historian by training, and he would say he's a librarian politically. Sorry, a libertarian. I get those two confused. Definitely on the Republican side of things in terms of history, the New Deal history. He would not have been a Democrat in the New Deal. He would have, so is the Pope confused here? Is what is the role of the government here? When he says that the law should prevent strikes, and to ensure, just hours and labor and all that stuff, the pay and all that. There's lots of things you can do to encourage companies to treat their workers with dignity and respect. There's lots of things you could do. You don't have to set a minimum wage, but it's a discussion that we've been having for a long time, and I want you to see a theological nuance here. Democrats say they love nuance, but oftentimes they're so grade inflated they don't even know what the word means. So we're stopping on number 91, on number 31, which in honor of Halloween, which is on the 31st. That's not a bad place to stop. Let me look at how long number 32 is. Yeah, I think we'll stop at number 31, and we'll see you guys later. I'm your host, Dr. Lucas J. Mather. This has been the Republican Professor Podcast, coming to you from Orange County, California. 27 October 2025, years after Jesus, in the backyard of my epistemology mentor and Professor Dr. Doug Geivett. Please check out Dr. Geivett's wonderful books, especially ones with Holly Pivick on the New Apostolic Reformation. They've done a really good job of trying to help people have an accurate understanding of the Christian testimony throughout history. And he goes by the name R. Douglas Geivett in his other writings as well. Take care.